The Winix 5510 entered the crowded marketplace of medium-sized air purifiers in 2025 as the shiny, snazzy replacement for the beast that was the 5500 II. But whereas the 5500 II posed serious competition to the Levoit Vital 200S, is the 5510 up for the challenge? Both devices cost about the same, have comparable features, and are similar in size. However, our test data shows that one of them is 33% cheaper to own and 27% more powerful at quiet fan speeds. So, is the new Winix still the king, or has Levoit stolen the crown? In order to find out, we will compare the 5510 to the Vital 200S side by side across third-party KDAR results, design and features, filter technology, air cleaning performance, sound generation, energy consumption, and long-term running costs. And at the end, we will tally those wins to find out which of the two models came on top. Our first stop is looking at third-party test results. Both models have KDAR certificates from the AHAM available on the Energy Star website. Unfortunately, due to the government shutdown in the United States, the EPA has reduced access to Energy Star resources, but lucky for you, I keep screenshots. The Vital 200S offers a slightly higher clean air delivery rate for dust, and the Winix 5510 has marginally better results for pollen and smoke. And both devices scored 0.0 parts per billion for ozone emissions in their test. This matters because one of them has an ionizer, but we're going to talk about that later. That said, I have put both of these devices through our particle removal test to see whether real-life performance matches the lab results, so keep watching to see what happens. When I think about an air purifier, I'm always thinking about how it's going to look in my home, but I'm not just thinking about aesthetics as much as I'm thinking about its usability. Is this air purifier easy to move around? Is it easy to clean? Can it survive my sons fighting with their Minecraft swords nearby? Both the Winix 5510 and the Vital 200S have solid bodies, have handles that make it easy to move around, and are stable on the ground. In terms of features of the unit, the two main things to consider are that the Levoit Vital 200S has an optical particle sensor that will need to be cleaned regularly, but it is much better at detecting particles than the gas sensor that you find in the 5510. The control panel of the Winix 5510 lacks some of the standard features you might be used to, like a child lock, timers, and lights off button. I have to say, it's such a disappointment not to see features we wanted in the 5500 II, like the child lock included in the Winix 5510. I really hope Winix can include these features in the app at some point. And speaking of the app, let's talk about some of the smart functionalities. Manufacturers have been rolling out app connectivity in new devices for some time now. We know that some of you don't want an app or have some concerns about a lack of support, privacy, or programmed obsolescence. If this is you, then you might be glad to hear that both the Vital 200S and the 5510 come with app support. Oh no. If this is you, then you might not be glad to hear that both the Vital 200S and the 5510 come with app support. Luckily, you don't need to use the app to run the air purifiers, so you could avoid if you don't want it. For those of you who want app control, know that Winix is new to apps, whereas Levoit is more of a veteran in this area. In fact, the 5510 is the first Winix model that I tested with an app, and whilst it works just fine, the reality is that the Winix app is fairly basic when compared to the VSync app that you get with the Levoit Vital 200S. Now, there are three things that the Vital 200S can do that you can't do with the 5510. You can adjust the sensitivity of the auto mode, offering choices for default, quiet, eco, and efficient. My favorite is the efficient mode, where you can set the size of your room and the Vital 200S will provide a full speed to provide one full air change before setting the unit to the default auto mode. You can also use smart scenes to set simple home automation routines, where you can define triggers tied to specific actions. There's even a new automation feature currently being tested that uses your phone location to trigger the air purifier to turn on when you're close to home. You can also enable and disable light detection, so if you want your air purifier to switch off lights and go to quiet auto mode when it detects darkness, you can have this feature turned on or off. But let's see what happens with their filters, because the Vital 200S has a debt with consumers, and that is something I will tell you about in a few minutes. I always talk about my preference for removable pre-filters, so I'm glad to report that the pre-filters inside the 5510 and the 200S are easy to remove, so you can quickly clean them to help extend the life of the main filters. But the difference lies behind the pre-filter. The Winix 5510 has an unbonded filter, so the gas and particle filters are separate, whilst the Vital 200S has an all-in-one filter with the gas filter bonded to the particle filter. Bonded filters do tend to improve air cleaning performance, but I do prefer unbonded filters because you are able to use the particle filter alone if the carbon runs out, which often happens before the particle filter needs to be replaced. With a bonded filter, you are forced to replace the whole thing, even if the particle filter still has plenty of life in it, leading to higher long-term costs and more rubbish in your bin. In terms of particle filter grades, Winix states that the 5510 comes with true HEPA filter, and Levoit now states that the filter in the Vital 200S is HEPA grade only when operating in sleep mode. However, when I bought my Vital 200S back in early 2023, I bought it thinking that the filter inside was a H13 HEPA filter. But by the end of 2023, Levoit had removed all mentions of H13 in their marketing after Dyson filed a complaint with the Better Business Bureau. My guess is that the Vital 200S offers H13 efficiency levels when working on sleep mode, but up until that Dyson challenge, their marketing materials weren't as transparent as they are today. This is an example why regulation matters, but let me make a parenthesis to talk about filter grade. Many people think that you need a high grade HEPA filter to get the best air cleaning performance, but our tests have shown that lower grade filters like E11 or MERV 13 can enable an air purifier to achieve higher clean air delivery rate, KDAR, as they don't restrict airflow nearly as much as a H13 HEPA filter would. That's why I always say that it's much better to focus on KDAR figure rather than the filter grade to understand how an air purifier will perform in the size of room you're going to use it in. Let's move on to the gas filter. The basic filter for the Vital 200S comes with 0.55 pounds or 250 grams of carbon, and the 5510 comes with 0.49 pounds or 226 grams. This is a tiny difference, and in both cases the amount of carbon is way too low to be truly helpful in cases where you're dealing with serious chemical fumes and VOCs. That said, the Vital 200S comes with a choice of filters, and if you go with the smoke remover option, you will get an additional 150 grams of carbon, which brings the total carbon amount to 400 grams or 0.88 pounds. So you could choose to replace the standard filter if you wanted to improve performance for odors and VOC removal at a later date. Overall, the filter in the Vital 200S is taller, wider, and deeper than the one inside the 5510, so you do get a larger filter surface, which should help trap more pollutants. It's also worth mentioning that 5510 comes with Winix signature plasma wave function, which adds a layer of bipolar ionization to improve the air cleaning performance of the device. I know that some of you don't like the idea of ionizers, so it's good to see that Winix allows the feature to be disabled with just the touch of a button. In terms of lifespan, the filters for both models should last about 12 months according to the manufacturers, and in terms of cost, the filter replacement for the 5510 costs $79.99 and the one for the Vital 200S costs $49.99. It is difficult to choose a winner for this portion of the video because I much prefer having separate filters like the ones in the 5510, and I don't like it when manufacturers choose not to be transparent with consumers. But does having a larger bonded filter make the Levoit device better at cleaning the air? Let's compare performance. At top speed, our performance data aligned with what we saw from AHAM KDAR, with small difference between both units. When we account for the natural ventilation in our test room, we estimate that the Vital 200S running at top speed has a PM1 KDAR of 259 CFM, which is higher than the 248 CFM we recorded for the Winix 5510 with its ionizer on. When we add the list price, we can work out the value each device brings in form of cost per KDAR. Even though the 5510 has a lower KDAR at top speed, at the current list price of $179.99, it technically offers a slightly better value with its ionizer enabled than the Vital 200S. Now it's time to bring sound into the equation. So I measured how much sound both units generate at each fan speed from 3 feet away, and we learned that the Winix 5510 is 15% louder at top speed than the Vital 200S. With this data in mind, I went ahead and retested air cleaning performance at a fan speed below 45 decibels, which is a point of where the noise will fade into the background. I isolated speed 2 as the highest fan speed that sits under the 45 decibel limit, and the Vital 200S cleaned our test room of all incense smoke pollutants in 46 minutes. And that's 14 minutes faster than the 5510. Based on the natural ventilation of our test room, I estimate a PM1 KDAR at speed 2 of 128 CFM for the Vital 200S and of 97 CFM for the 5510. So when we account for sound, the Levoit Vital 200S offers 27% higher KDAR at quiet fan speeds when compared to what you'll get with the Winix 5510. Alright, so the 5510 is louder, but what about the power bill? Let's look at energy usage. I used my energy meter to measure how much electricity each of these devices pulled at different fan speeds and on standby. The Winix 5510 is not only louder at top speed than the Vital 200S, it's also more power hungry. In both cases, you'll need to replace the filters every 12 months, so you will be buying one filter set each year. When we combine the filter costs with the added cost to the energy bill, the Levoit Vital 200S will be 33% cheaper to run each year than the Winix 5510. So the moment you've been waiting for, which of these models is better? While the Levoit Vital 200S will cost you $10 more, you will get better quiet performance, lower running costs, and a much more useful app. Now, I really like the unbonded filter and overall look of the Winix 5510, and I still think it's a good machine. I know app functionality can improve over time, so I'm not too bothered about the Winix app not being as good as the Levoit VSync app, but as I said in my review, the move to a smaller chassis just wasn't a good move for Winix. The 5510 comes in a smaller package than the 5500 too, and even though the package looks great, it's also led to less powerful performance and a noisier device overall. So for me, the Levoit Vital 200S is the clear winner and the one that I'd recommend. If you're ready to pick one up, I've put my affiliate links in the description. Using these links to buy helps support this channel and pays for all the units and the testing at no extra cost to you. We really appreciate the support. Anyway, what do you think? Am I being too hard on the new Winix? Let me know in your comments and I'll see you all in the next video. Still here? You might want to check out my video when I compared the Vital 200S to the legendary Winix 5500 too. Or maybe you just want to see what I think is the best air purifier for this year.